Let's see, what day is this? This is October 10th, 1992. And the microphone's trying to jump off my chest. And we are lying down in Hunter's bed, and I have Cheyenne on one side of me and Hunter on the other. All righty. And this is about, it says, Krista Saves the Magic. It's Ferngully. And you guys have the Ferngully tape now, too, don't you?
Yeah. That's what but in this book, it doesn't say, I'm blind, I can see.
Oh, just like it does on the tape, you know.
But it doesn't say that in it.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll read every word of it, okay? And pretty soon you're going to be able to read because you're learning at school and you'll read every word of it to me. It was dawn in Ferngully, and Krista, a tiny rainforest fairy, was racing rainbow lorikeets through the mist. See, like instead of parakeets, they're lorikeets. Now, even though high-speed flying was forbidden by fairy lore, Krista was one of the fastest flyers in the forest, and only her elf friend Pip, or Pips, you're Krista? Okay. Only her elf friend Pips came close to beating her. Krista shot past the lorikeets in a dazzling burst of light. Not fair, one complained. That's a fairy trick. She would go so fast when she'd fly. Well, Krista laughed and flew off to see Magaloon, the oldest fairy in the forest. And the fogs had been saying that someone was working the weather, and that it might be Hexus, Ferngully's ancient enemy. Weather working, wondered Krista, is that possible? Magaloon would know. Okay, look at these weird-looking things. They look kind of like chickens, but they're...
Walk. This one's walk.
It does? Well, it says, guarding the entrance of Magaloon's home, deep in the heart of the Antarctic beech trees, were two cassowaries, Ock and Rock. State your name, Krista, said Ock importantly. And the password, mumbled Rock. All right, said Krista. Is that the password? Asked Rock. Sounds fine to me, noted Rock. Ock, scratching the bone on top of his head. Magia, said Krista softly. Who is Hexus? Can he really work the weather? And so here she is, and she's talking to the older fairy. Magia sighed. A long time ago, she said, Hexus became the destroyer and upset the balance of nature, and I had to call up the old powers to imprison him inside a tree at the foot of Mount Warning. Well, can't he escape? Asked Krista. Never, said Magi. No natural force can free him. Something else must be changing the weather. Well, now Krista flew home slowly, and Magalane's words were buzzing inside her head. And then suddenly, Pips appeared in a flash before her. This is Pips, right? The boy fairy?
Yeah.
You've been flying like an old mothball, he said. And then a roar shattered the peace of the forest, and it was the mad, bad beetle boys riding their noisy staghorn beetles. We've got you this time, said Stump, their leader, and we're going to munch you up. Ooh, look at these pinchers on the beetles. Ooh.
No way. In the movie, those guys crash into slimy flowers.
They do?
It's the berries.
Oh,
crash
no.
into berries. They go...
Oh, they really crash, do they? Well, Pips and Krista streaked away through the forest toward Thunder Falls, and they dived into the spray and then shot up over the top of the falls, and Pip slowed down, but Krista kept flying higher and higher. Krista, stop! Shouted Pips. To his horror, Krista disobeyed the fairy lore and flew straight through the canopy, and she disappeared out the top of the rainforest. Now, for a moment, Krista was blinded by the intense light, and she blinked amazed. She had never seen so much blue sky, and she'd never dreamt that the world above the canopy was so beautiful. There in the distance was a towering rock. A thin, swirling black cloud rose from one side of it. What a strange cloud, Krista thought. The sky darkened. Krista looked up and saw a huge falcon plummeting towards her, its deadly talons outstretched. She gasped and dived for the safety of the canopy. Back down under the trees and into the forest. Krista hurtled through the tall trees, feeling the falcon's breath on her wing. Any moment it would snatch her up. Tucking in her wings, she dived through a tiny opening in a maze of prickly vines, and the falcon plunged after her. But the vines tore at its wings, and angrily it flapped free and headed back up into the open sky. Well, Krista sped on, her heart pounding, until she crashed into Pips as she hovered beneath the canopy looking for her. "What are you trying to do, kill me?" he yelled. But she just flew away as if she was in a daze. She had to see Magdalene now and ask her about the rock and the strange cloud. Well, now Krista found Maggie floating around the forest near her home. New flowers burst into life wherever she passed by. Spellbound, Krista watched Maggie toss a seed into the air, then watched it change into an image of the world above the canopy. "There are worlds within worlds," Maggie explained. "Everything is connected, Krista. From our forest world to the stars, right down to this tiny seed." See, and she tosses up the seed. "We are all part of the magic web of life." "I wish I could work magic like that," Krista sighed, then told Maggie that she'd been above the canopy. "The rock was Mount Warning," said Maggie, "and the cloud was probably smoke from a fire. Some unnatural force has freed Hexus." Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Now just settle in, honey. Just hang in, okay? When Krista arrived home at the Strangler fig tree, which everyone called Old High Rise, the elves and fairies were waiting for her. They complained to her about her high-speed flying with the lorikeets and her skylarking with the dreadful beetle boys. "While you were out skylarking," one of the elfin elders, "a falcon made a hole in the canopy, a huge hole." I think there's something even worse happening," Krista said. "Hexus is working the weather." Now everyone stared at her. "Nonsense," said her father. "Hexus is a legend best forgotten." "It's not nonsense," thought Krista, "and I'm going to find out exactly what's going on." So Pips was at Mossy Bank playing music, and frogs and lorikeets provided a tuneful chorus. Pips loved to tune in to the rhythms of the forest, but he couldn't stop thinking about what Krista had just told him. She said that she was going to fly to Mount Warning. She wanted Pips to go with her, but he'd said, "No way, Mount Warning doesn't exist. It's only a place in a fairy legend." Well, perhaps he was wrong. But before he could think any more about it, a huge flying creature crashed past. "It's some sort of bat," gasped Pips. "If someone doesn't stop it, it'll kill itself and everything in its path." The frantic bat crashed into Old High Rise, staggered to his feet, and began to wail, "I'm a freak from a laboratory, a freaky fruit bat, as you can see. I've been brain-fried, electro-wired, injected, and terrified. Now, hang a fang while I flap my jaw. Excuse the slang, and I tell you more. I'm rude, I'm nude, I'm even tattooed. I'm Scatty Batty Coda, one groovy dude. I've been polarized and sterilized, hypnotized and humanized." "Humans?" said Krista. "Did you say humans? Were they at Mount Warning?" Batty Coda shivered. "Forget about humans," he bleeped. "And forget about Mount Warning. It's fairy bug. It's a master disaster." Well, early next morning, Krista persuaded Batty to go flying with her. And as they neared the edge of the forest, Krista told him that they were heading for Mount Warning, and he crashed into a tree. Poor Batty didn't want to go to Mount Warning, huh?
I'm Batty.
You're Batty? Okay. Fractured figs, fairy bug. There are humans at Mount Warning, he bleeped and refused to continue. Well, then I'll go on alone, said Krista. And before Batty could say groovocious, she'd flown out of the forest. And when Krista reached Mount Warning, in front of her stood the ugliest tree she had ever seen. It was the Hexus tree. Suddenly, something lunged at the tree, toppling it with a mighty crash. Caught up in the branches, Krista struggled, screaming. Then she was snatched up, and a familiar voice said, "Wrapped banana corpses, fairy bug, you are nearly gobbled up." Now, Krista thought that Batty's crazy chatter was the most wonderful sound in the world. And as night fell, the elves and fairies of Ferngully were afraid. They did not yet know that Hexus had escaped, but they were worried about Krista. Where could she be? And while the elders organized a search party, Pips and the Beetle Boys sped through the forest, calling out Krista's name. Pips was sure that Krista had gone to Mount Warning. If only he'd listened to her. If only. Well, Krista and Batty spent the night snugly in a tree. And in the morning she flew straight to Madge Lane. And Madge was looking into a large bubble of water she'd scooped up from the pond, and in it she could see row after row of tree stumps. Flocks of frightened birds wheeled into the sky. "There is something in the wind," Madge said. "The unnatural force that did this has also freed Hexus. Soon the whole forest will be in danger." "But surely you can stop him again," cried Krista. "Oh, I'm no longer young and strong," Madge said wearily. "My power is limited." "I'll help you," said Krista. "Well, perhaps," said the old fairy thoughtfully, "but first I must show you the danger you will face. Once you have decided to fight Hexus, there can be no turning back." Ooh, is this him? Look at him. Madge scooped up another bubble of water, and they stared into its depths. And they saw what looked to be a monster in the forest, belching black smoke and felling trees with one mighty arm. "That's the monster that tried to eat me," Krista said. "It's not a monster. It's a machine for cutting down trees," Madge explained. Then Madge and Krista saw an angry-faced cloud hovering above the machine. "That's Hexus," said Madge. "The humans, with their magic machine, have accidentally released him. Now he's out of control." She turned to Krista. "Do you still want to face Hexus?" Krista swallowed. "Yes," she said, in a small but firm voice. "Very well, then you must gather everyone together for the ceremony. There's no time to lose." And the word went out throughout Ferngully, "Meet Madge Lane in the heart of Antarctic beech forest. There is to be a ceremony, and Madge Lane is going to work the old powers to save the forest." And animals and elves and fairies came from all parts of Ferngully and gathered around Madge Lane as she hovered above the ground. And Madge put a glowing seed in Krista's hand. "Just as every seed holds the power and magic of creation, so do you, Krista, and every other creature in the world," Madge said. "Combine your power with love, and you feel for this forest and all of life, and you will banish Hexus." And as Madge spoke, her body dissolved until she was just a spark of light. "Your time has come, Krista. Look for the hero inside of you." And Madge's voice floated into the trees, and everyone began to sing. And together with the magic of nature, they would save Ferngully. Led by Krista, they all flew off, vowing that this time they would defeat Hexus forever. And they do, don't they? Because I saw the film. And they managed to do it. They beat him, don't they? Because he's in the machine, isn't he?
Well, they don't really make heck disappear.
What happens to him?
Like, he goes into skeleton.
Oh, he becomes a skeleton in a tree. The tree goes around him, doesn't it?
Yeah, the tree goes in.
And imprisons him. This is a book that Hunter brought home from first grade. Hunt is doing so good in school. It's called Teeny Tiny.
Teeny tiny.
Teeny Tiny. Hunter's doing a lot better than I am. Daddy's getting sleepy.
Tiny walk on a parade.
Did you? Really?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. Well, it says, once upon a time, there was a teeny tiny woman who lived in a teeny tiny house in a teeny tiny village. And there she is, and she's outside of her little house, kind of like a little cabin, isn't it? And she's got, look, there's a dog and a cat there, and very big flowers. That's right. One day, this teeny tiny woman put on her teeny tiny hat. Now, here's the cat watching, and the dog. And she went out of her teeny tiny house to make a teeny tiny walk. And when the teeny tiny woman had gone a teeny tiny way, she came to a teeny tiny gate. So the teeny tiny woman opened the teeny tiny gate and went out into the teeny tiny churchyard. In the teeny tiny churchyard, she saw a teeny tiny bone on a teeny tiny grave, and a teeny tiny woman said to her teeny tiny self, "This teeny tiny bone will make some teeny tiny soup for my teeny tiny supper." And so she's going to take this bone. Oh, what kind of a bone was she going to find in the cemetery? Maybe it was a people bone? Ooh, yeah.
I claim to see if she was from.
Okay, great, Mama.
You get hit.
And so the teeny tiny woman took the teeny tiny bone from the teeny tiny grave and put it in her teeny tiny pocket. And they went back home to her teeny tiny house. But now there's ghosts following her. Uh-oh. When the teeny tiny woman got to her teeny tiny house, she was a teeny tiny bit tired. And so she went up the teeny tiny stairs. Uh-oh. Ooh, it looks to me like ghosts are following her. And she put her teeny tiny bone in her teeny tiny cupboard and got into her teeny tiny bed. Now, when the teeny tiny woman was asleep for a teeny tiny while, she was awakened by a teeny tiny voice from the teeny tiny cupboard which said, "Give me my bone." The teeny tiny woman was a teeny tiny bit frightened, and so she hid her teeny tiny head under the teeny tiny bedclothes and she went to sleep again. And when she had slept a teeny tiny time, the teeny tiny voice cried out again from the teeny tiny cupboard a teeny tiny bit louder, "Give me my bone." And this made the teeny tiny woman a teeny tiny bit more frightened. And so she hid her teeny tiny head a teeny tiny bit further under the teeny tiny bedclothes, and the cat and the dog are hiding too. And when the teeny tiny woman had been asleep again for a teeny tiny time, the teeny tiny voice from the teeny tiny cupboard said a teeny tiny bit louder, "Give me my bone." And the teeny tiny woman was a teeny tiny bit more frightened. But she popped her teeny tiny head up out of the teeny tiny bedclothes and said in her loudest teeny tiny voice, "Take it!" And so, the ghosts, look at this in the last page, what are they doing?
They're taking the bone.
And they're taking their bone and they're going home. That's a very, did you read this at school? Did your teacher read it to you?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
She did? Well, here's Cheyenne's new Big Backyard magazine. Should we read it? What are these on the front cover?
Bull.
I think they're coyotes.
The coyote. I don't like coyotes.
I don't like coyotes either.
The baby coyote.
Yeah, they're babies. When you want to see your friends, and they don't live far away, does someone drive you in the car, or do you walk to where you play? If you skip or take a walk, you can save some gasoline, and you'll help to do more than that. You'll help to keep our air clean. My name is B.B. Yardley. What's your name?
Hunter.
That's right. It says, in September, many squirrels collect acorns and other nuts. They eat the nuts in winter. And this is a flying squirrel, and he's putting his nut down into the tree.
It looks like a pumpkin or apple or peach.
Yeah, but it's a little nut. He's a flying squirrel. Coyotes.
Those look like dogs.
Yeah, they do look a lot like dogs, don't they? It says some coyotes live in warm places. Some coyotes live in cold places. Coyotes are often awake at night and asleep during the day. They try to catch cats at night and eat them, don't they?
Yeah, but that one's the mama one.
I
They
think
don't
so.
catch our cats.
The young coyote is rolling in the wildflowers. Young coyotes bounce and yap and play the way tame puppies do. Baby coyotes are born in a cozy den that their mother has dug for them. Look at the baby coyote on the cover. They're peeking out of their den. How many baby coyotes do you see?
2.
There's 2 there, aren't they? And they're looking out of their den. I say the grown-up coyote is taking a nap in the snow. Her fluffy tail keeps her nose warm, and when she wakes up, she will howl and yowl. What do you think this coyote is saying? These are birds, goldfinches. This is the male in the winter, and the male in summer. They change color. This is how the mother goldfinch sits on her eggs until her babies hatch, and the father brings her food. Look at this. The daddy brings the mama food. These baby goldfinches have just been hatched, and their father guards them while their mother looks for food. Look at that. They're little bitty babies.
Yeah.
Oh, now they're all getting big. Look at the mama bringing them food and feeding them. The baby goldfinches are now almost as big as their fathers. Soon, they'll be ready to leave the nest. Have you ever seen a goldfinch? Goldfinches might live in your backyard, but, I don't think we have any around here, not in Malibu. They must be in other parts of the country. Row 1, you're supposed to color the different bird green. Which one is different than the others?
This one.
That's right. Now, in row 2, you're supposed to color the different bird red. Which one is different in that one?
This one.
No. Look at which one is different from the others. All of these are the same, but one of those is different. Which one?
This one.
That's right. Now, on row 3, which one of them is different, Hunter? What is this number?
2.
What's this number?
1.
What's this number?
3.
Which row has an upside-down bird? Which number? What is that number?
3.
Which row has a little bird?
This one.
No, all of the other bird has only one little bird, and all the rest of the birds are big. Which row? That's right. Row number 1. This is number 1. Which row has 6 birds? That's right. All right, we're turning the page now. And what is this?
Otters. Otters.
They look like otters. I would have said otters too, but you know what it says here?
What?
We are the mercats. See our wiggly whiskers? See our pointed noses? We're called mercats. We stand in funny poses. Can you believe? Can you believe they're mercats? And
They look like people.
I know. Can you believe they're all standing there with their hands like that?
They look like people with speared heads.
They sure do to me. I'll tell you, it's very weird.
Hello. Look at
that
little baby.
I know. It says mercats are not cats at all. The mongoose is their closest relative. Mercats live in the dry part of Africa, and they dig in the sand for lizards and insects to eat. These 4 baby mercats have a babysitter while their mother is away hunting for food. The grown-up mercat is only a little bit taller than this page. So see, they're only this tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, as tall as the page. Each of these pictures is hiding something in this magazine. Is hiding somewhere in this magazine. Well, we've already seen all those pictures, haven't we? Or most of them. The lettuce leaf thief. Shall we read this story?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we got enough tape. I'll bet we do. We can put it on tape, too. It says, Lori patted the small lettuce patch. into the lettuce plant into the ground. She loved to watch things grow. And this year her mother had given her 6 tiny lettuce plants of her own. "Now give it some water," said Mother. "We want your plant to have a lot to drink." And so the water gurgled down into the soft earth, and then Lori planted the other lettuce plants, just like the first one. And she imagined them growing bigger and fuller. She could almost taste their crisp leaves. And the next day was Tuesday, and Lori hurried back before school to check her plants. But where there had been 6 lettuce plants, now there were only 5. One was gone. Now Lori's mother looked at the little green stub. She looked around. She said, "Lori, if you look over by the swing set, I think you'll see your lettuce leaf thief." And they looked over there, and what was it?
I don't know.
A pretty brown rabbit sat motionless by the teeter-totter on the playground. "A rabbit ate my lettuce plant?" asked Lori. "That's not fair." "Well, try telling that to a hungry rabbit," said Mom, smiling just a little. On Wednesday, Lori rushed out to check her plants, and now there were only 4. Yep. The brown bunny sat still as a statue over by the bird dam. "You stay out of my garden, you robber rabbit!" yelled Lori, and she rushed at that, flapping her arms, and the rabbit, of course, bounded away into the next-door neighbor's yard. "I hate that rabbit," grumbled Lori. "The rabbit's just being a rabbit," said her mother, "and rabbits eat plants." Well, later that day, Mother helped Lori put up a little wire fence around her 4 plants. "That should keep the old rabbit out," said Lori. "Oh, look at this, huh?" Well, on Thursday, Lori got up very early, and she tiptoed out the front door and peeked around the corner of the house, and inside the little fence sat the rabbit. How'd he get in?
I don't know.
Inside the little fence sat the rabbit, and it was munching away on the tiny lettuce leaves, and there were now only 3 plants left. And this time Lori was puzzled. "How did the rabbit get into my garden?" she said. "I'll get you now," she said louder. "You're trapped, you rabbit." And so Lori went back into the house and got a small cardboard box. "If I catch that rabbit," she told her mother, "we can let it loose in the country, and then my garden will be safe." Well, Lori's mother smiled to herself. She knew that the rabbit would be much too quick to catch, but Lori crept slowly towards the fence, and the rabbit saw her coming and froze. And Lori moved closer, and she lifted the box slowly over the fence, slowly, slowly. Then the rabbit zipped away under the wire fence, ran off as fast as it could go. He got under the fence. You rabbit!" called Lori after it. On Friday morning, Lori awoke when the sun was just rising, and she slipped out the back door of the garden, and she looked down, and there in the dirt were rabbit tracks. The rabbit had been in her garden again, eating up her little plants. Well, sure enough, there were only 2 plants left now. But where was that rabbit? Now the tracks led from the garden over toward the blue blackberry patch. Lori followed them to where they stopped. "What's that? Where's that awful rabbit?" she muttered. But she could see nothing except vines and dry leaves and grass, and suddenly the leaves moved, and the rabbit sprang out, racing away, and Lori jumped back, startled. Then she knelt down to examine the rabbit's hiding place. And the bunny's brown body had been nearly invisible in the dry leaves, and Lori looked closer and spotted a few small tufts of fur, and as she reached out to touch the tufts, the leaves moved again, and Lori jumped back, startled once more, because huddled under the vines, in the dried grass and leaves, were 4 baby bunnies. She rushed back to the house with the news. Baby rabbits! She'd lost 4 young lettuce plants, but she'd found 4 baby bunnies. "So," said Mother, "you're not mad at the rabbit anymore?" No, said Lori. I guess that rabbit was just doing what rabbits do, like you said, Mom. But, besides, I'd rather watch bunnies grow up than watch lettuce grow. So she was going to go back there every day and watch the bunnies get a little bigger and a little bigger. And I'll bet you know what she'll probably do? She'll probably pet them, and they won't be afraid of her as they grow up, you know? If you pet little baby bunnies, Mama, they wouldn't be afraid of you, would they?
Mm-mm.
Nope.
I'll pet them
Okay.
Mama found some once that were like this.
Did you?
Little tiny.
Mama found some real baby bunnies
Little
one
baby
time.
bunnies. I brought them home and showed my mom. And then one time I found real tiny baby snakies. Little tiny.
Snakes?
A little garter.
Lovely. Did you bring that home, too?
They were in our wood pile. They
Oh.
lived in our wood pile, and I went ahead and kept them there with the snake. Oh, yeah.
Would you like a
Keep
snake
all
in your own?
Those rats and
No.
mice away.
You don't want a snake?
I want a turtle.
Do you want a snake?
I want a turtle.
Oh, you guys want turtle.
Wait. Got all.
Oh, he wants the cats?
And
Scott-
Dario
Scuttle-
completely has his number. Dario won't react.
Does Scuttle try to get the cats?
Yeah.
What do the cats do?
Shira hisses at him.
Shira hisses at Scuttle?
And Matisse runs from him, too.
Really?
Kind of play runs. Yeah, hangs out.
Yeah, I'm going to say Matisse knows he doesn't have to be afraid of him.
No,
But
they-
Dario doesn't do anything, huh?
Well, Dario sometimes runs a little bit, but then it's like, nah, I'm not doing anything right now. He just kind of looks at him and then Scott goes, okay. Runs
Oh,
off. You know,
funny.
it's funny. Yeah.
Oh,
Dario's,
funny.
you know, lazy boy attitude.
Okay, well now here, the sun makes the plants grow, doesn't it? You get some water on the plants and they grow. The plant is food for a caterpillar. So the plant, the caterpillar eats up the plant. But then the caterpillar is food for the bird. The bird comes along and eats the caterpillar. And the bird is food for the coyote. Coyotes catch birds oftentimes. Now, grass turns sunlight into food. And so the grass is there, and bugs come and eat that. And then the mice will eat the grass too, see? But then a mouse is food for a coyote. So the coyote eats up everything it can get, won't it?
Even.
But it all starts with the sun. Now the sun, corn plants turn sunlight into food because corn grows on the stalks. And then corn is good for us to eat, and we eat it. And grass turns sunlight into food, and then cows eat the food. And then cows are meat for us.
Get
They make
the
milk.
hamburger.
Yeah, hamburgers are made out of cows. It says pictures of clay. 1, find some weeds and leaves, and then now get some clay. Any kind of clay is good. You don't have any clay anymore, do you? We'll have to get you some more. Then make the clay flat and smooth, and then press leaves and weeds into the clay. And then pull the leaves and weeds out of the clay and look at the beautiful patterns you make in the clay. Now, on the back cover, this says, "Who am I? I'm a pet dog called a collie. I'm a tame cousin of wild coyotes. Do you think we look alike?" They're different, aren't they? Coyotes and collies don't look alike.
Yeah.
This is Lassie, a Lassie kind of dog. It's not Lassie, but it's a Lassie kind of
It
dog.
looks like Lassie.
Yeah, a collie.
Lassie's that same dog.
Not that dog, but she's a collie. Well, we read some good books tonight, didn't we?
Yeah.
And you are playing with your computer when I came in, and you composed your own song on the computer. And then when you touched the button, it played.
Mhm.
I think that's fantastic. Now, I've worked with you with this little computer a lot. And in the past, you didn't know how to make songs. So Jason taught you how to do this when he was babysitting?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful, Hunter. That is really neat, isn't it? Oh. Let's see you play it. Can you play it for this?
Yeah.
Okay, play your song.
Hello, please insert guests. Play a song.
That's neat. You do so good on your computer.
Because Mom said I can keep it. I can like drawing them. There.
Good night, children.
Good night, Tata.
Good night, Cheyenne.
Good night, Tata.
Good night, Hunter.
Good night, Tata.